But what exactly is a neural network? Right? When you hear that, it's a very complex answer, a very complex sounding term, right? Like, or you read about it in the news, or, oh, neural networks, that sounds really complex, right? But I want you to think of this, because again, this is the way that Rashid Tariq explains it in his book. I don't want to take credit for this, because this is his book. Neural networks, in a nutshell, it represents the human brain. That's it. That's why it's called a neural network. It's a representation of the human brain. Okay, how does the human brain work? Well, the human brain takes in an input, it evaluates that input, it decides whether to send an electrical impulse or not, and that electrical impulse goes to another neuron, right? And by the way, I forgot to say, the inputs are all neurons, right? It sends an electrical input to another neuron. That neuron evaluates, and then it decides to whether or not to send an electrical input. And then it's called a network because there's a ton of neurons. And they're all doing their own processing. And they're all firing to other neurons. And then those neurons do their own processing. And then they're firing to other neurons. So it's this big network of these neurons in your brain and throughout your body that decide whether to fire or not. That's it. All right, that's how your human body works. And that's what a neural network tries to represent. That's it. That's what a neural network is. It's a representation of the human brain and the human body. So when my brain sends an impulse to say, raise your right hand, it's sending that from my brain. It's my brain is firing to the right neurons in my muscles, in my nerves, that are telling me whether yes or no to go up or down with my right arm. Right now, as I'm speaking, all those little neurons are deciding to fire or not and send my arm up or down. That's it. That's how the human body works, right? The human body is an electrical machine, firing at all times. So that's all it's doing, right? My brain is saying fire yes or no to millions and millions of neurons throughout my body and my arm and all that, right? And that's it. That's all we're doing. We are going to represent that in code. And when you do that, guess what? You have a neural network. That's what a neural network does. All right? So from what I said, we're going to have our inputs. We're going to have the little neurons in between. And then we're going to have the result. Right? Because the result is my hand either went up or down. But that's it. That's all we're doing in code, guys. So if anybody's confused or intimidated by neural networks, that's all it is. It's a representation of how the human brain and your body works. What neurons are you using? How many are you using? And do they fire or not? That's it. That's how your body runs, and that's what we're going to be representing in code. So in the neural network sense, in the data science sense, that means that a neural network has a minimum of 3 components that we're going to work with. 1 is the input layer. 2 is what's known as the middle layer. And 3 is what's known as the output layer. So that's the minimum. And that middle part, you can have as many of the middle layers, or sometimes known as the hidden layers, or processing layers, sometimes you might hear it. Those middle layers can be as big or as small as you want. And they can be as many as you want. You can have as many hidden layers as you want. So your input is based on the nature of your problem, how many inputs are available. Your hidden layers, your processing layers, that's a function of kind of like building and designing your neural network. And then the output is a function of what are you trying to solve? Do you need a binary output? Do you need a categorical output? Things along those lines, right? So that's really kind of what we're after when we're talking about neural networks. What does our input look like? What do our hidden layers look like? And what do our outputs look like? And then remember how I mentioned that there's some processing that goes on? That's also a function of your layers to some degree. And then remember how I mentioned the node either fires or not? That's going to be a result of what's known as an activation function. The node either activates or it doesn't, right? It fires or it doesn't. It sends that impulse or it doesn't. So I know that I'm speaking a little bit in the abstract, where it's going to be a little bit better when we see it in code, but I want you to keep those three things in mind, because those three things are agnostic to whatever framework you're going to use. Every neural network, no matter how you write it, no matter what language you write it in, you're thinking in those terms. What are my inputs? What are my hidden layers? And what are my outputs? All right? That's it. That's neural networks in a nutshell.